Hey, good evening, guys. Mark here, and welcome back. And sorry if I sound like Snuffleupagus. I'm kind of fighting a cold here. So, what I've done is, or what I've thought to do for us here, is to take what we've learned in lesson 12, 13, and 14, and I figured we'd go ahead and let's make a little game out of that. So, we already have the framework, so let's make a game. So one of the first things we're going to want to do is we're going to add some variables here. I have a list of variables we're going to need, and basically I've also created the sprites already, which you guys can see over here. We're actually going to change level. Let's do that now. Excuse me. Let's change it to score. And then let's go ahead down to our update UI here, update status bar. Let's change this to score, and then this will be lowercase score here. And then we're actually going to, underneath the keyboard input, where we're using A, let's go ahead and comment that out. We could probably delete this, but let's just comment it out for now. And now we can see it says score up here. And we're not going to use our arrow either, so we can get rid of that arrow right up front. So one thing we're going to go ahead and do is we don't need arrow X or arrow Y, so let's comment that out. We could delete this, but I just want to leave it as part of our framework for now. But it's just going to be commented out code. Sorry, I'm really stuffed up. I'm trying to fight this cold. So while we're doing our move arrow, let's go ahead and just comment all this code out. We don't need any of it right now. We're not going to use any of it. So the next thing I want to go ahead and do is make sure we comment out where we're loading it. And make sure we go ahead underneath the actual quit section. Where is it here? gamingworld.quit. We weren't unloading it anyway. We should have unloaded any bitmaps that we had here. So looks like it's not an issue. So we'll have to remember that though, to unload our bitmaps later on. But let's go ahead and just comment this out and this out. So we're adding a couple of new variables here. Or excuse me, not well, we will add variables, but we're going to add a couple more bitmaps. So let's load those bitmaps. Before we add any variables, let's go ahead and get some bitmaps loading. And I'm going to leave it in this view so you guys can see my screen. I feel a little foggy, so I don't want to forget to show you guys what we're doing. So I figured just kind of easier to leave that there. So let's go ahead and load this bitmap, load BMP. And this is going to be, we'll call it red balloon. Kind of a nice name for a bitmap. Not period, comma. Let's not start this. So this should all seem pretty familiar to you. And I already have it in the folder, so it's red balloon.bmp. So we're going to load our bitmap. Then let's go ahead and add our red balloon to the screen. So gaming world, add sprite. I think I might make some functions that pass in the name of a sprite. That way we only have to call that function and just pass it the name of our sprite. You can tell I'm always thinking. So our balloon, and then this will be our balloon. So we added our sprite, we called it our balloon, and then let's go ahead and now we could either set our crosshair to the front or our red balloon to the back. Either way it doesn't matter, but I'll do sprite to back, our balloon. So we'll make sure that our crosshair appears on the front of our balloon. Might be better to go ahead and have our crosshair at the front, but I'll leave it like that for now. You can do it either way. Once again, as long as it works the way you want, it's not really bad. But you can imagine if we had 10 or 12 different things we were shooting at on the screen, because that's what we're going to do is have the balloon bounce up and down, and we're going to actually shoot at it. But let's go ahead and sprite XY, our balloon, so our red balloon, and then we'll have our ball X, and we'll have our ball Y. So those are the first two new variables we're probably going to add up at the top. We're also going to add a bullet so we can shoot at it. So let's do gaming world, and you can see why I want to make a function for this at some point to make it a lot easier. And bullet. So we're going to add our bullet. We'll call it bullet. You can tell we're being wicked creative here. Now what we want to do is we want to load this bitmap. So let me finish setting the X and Y here. Don't just feel a little foggy headed. So it's kind of a, hopefully it doesn't show too bad in this lesson, but I'll try to keep it as organized as possible. So let's go ahead and just finish this. So the handle to our window, then our sprite XY, and basically we'll say bullet and then we'll say bullet X, bullet Y. So there's two more variables that we're going to go ahead and add, but let's go ahead and load the bitmap for our bullet. So load our bitmap. We're going to call it bullet just for simplicity. We'll drill down to where it's located in that folder, and you can see we called it bullet.bmp. There we go. Now when you're creating your sprites, don't forget to fill in the edges black and stuff. That way it makes the sprite mask. Hopefully you guys found that. I haven't seen any message from you guys, but if you're looking for it, let me know. I can steer you in the right direction. So now what we're going to do is let's go back to the top and let's add our variables for what we've just added. So we'll have our ball X, the red balloon X, and let's go ahead and add the, let's start it off at like 512. We'll have our ball Y. Let's start that off at 384. And let's have bullet X, bullet X equals 0 as a starting position, bullet Y. We'll have that equal, let's say 1,000. So basically we're going to hide it off the screen. So if we run this, let's see, what do we get? Red balloon BMP not found. Let's go back and look at it. Oh, there we go. 2 O's and balloon. So like I told you guys, I'm not going to comment out any of these or edit the video for any mistakes. We'll find them. There we go. So there's our balloon. And you can see that our crosshair is on top of it because we set the sprite order to the balloon to the back. Now let's just make sure that our bullet's going to show up. So we'll go here. And let's just say 500. And we'll run this. And you can see here's our bullet right here on the left. And you can see that our crosshair is behind that. So we might want to have our crosshair be to the front later on. But I actually kind of like having the bullet on top of there. So when you see when it fires later on. So we're on our way to building. So let's set this back to 1,000. I wanted to go ahead and just test that. So those are the first variables we're going to need. Now we're actually going to need a couple other variables. So we're going to actually have a balloon flag, a balloon count, a balloon direction. So let's go ahead and just add these in here, and I'll show you why we have them and what we're going to do with them. So let's go ahead and we'll add balloon flag. So this is going to basically tell us, is there a balloon on the screen or not? Kind of a simple way to do it right now. Balloon count equals 0. And balloon direction. And we'll start off, it's going to be equal to up. So our balloon's going to be moving up the screen. And then underneath the bullet, we're going to have a shoot flag and a shoot count. So shoot flag equals 0 and shoot count equals 0. So that should be all the variables that we're going to need. So pretty cool. So one of the next things we're going to want to do is actually add some of our branch labels. And I know we're going to need these branch labels. We want to move the balloon. We want to increment our counters, and then we want to check for collisions. So right underneath our arrow, let's add these subroutines. So go sub, and the first one, move dot balloon. Let's move this balloon around. And then the other one, go sub count. How about uppercase here? Count. So we're going to increment any of our counts, and then go sub, and we're going to say collisions. So we're adding 3 new subroutines. And what I want to do is move these to the end of our file. So right underneath our move arrow. So we want to add move.balloon. Then we'll have it return. Say this is our count, so count. That'll return. And then we'll have our collisions. And that will return. So all of those are our subroutines, and they'll return. And now we can go ahead and we can use this like I have before in other lessons to go ahead and really comment our code. So this is going to be blue, move balloon. This is going to be increment our counters. Do apologize once again. Like I said, I am not feeling well, so hopefully this is very clear. And I'll stop saying I'm sorry pretty soon, but hopefully you guys can hear me. And then this is going to be check for sprite collisions. Alright, perfect. So we got everything labeled. So we're ready to go. We've already fixed the code in our status bar. We did that in the beginning. So we want to think about what we're doing. So the idea of this is to have this balloon move up and down and respawn at random locations. And when we shoot it, you guys can hear the gunshot here. When we shoot the balloon, we want it to disappear and then reappear in a random location, moving up and down and adding 1 to our score. So that's the whole idea. So what we want to do is, when we're shooting, we're using our left mouse click. So we want to actually go ahead and have the bullet pop up on the screen when we shoot. That'd be a nice feature, right? So let's go ahead and I'm just going to do this because we know we have left mouse click. Lets us jump around a lot nicer. And basically we're going to have a nice if statement here. So we're going to say if our shoot flag is equal to 0, so we haven't shot yet, then we want to do all this code in here. This is all going to be in this one if statement. So we can leave our wave file right at the bottom. That's perfect. So then what we'll do is, if shoot flag is equal to 0, then we're going to shoot. So our shoot flag would be equal to 1 because now we've shot. This will set our balloon flag to 1, which we'll use this later on. So, you know, hey, we shot a balloon, or we tried to shoot a balloon basically. And then basically we've got our balloon x, bx, equals, or our bullet x, excuse me, bullet x, equals mouse x minus 16. And this is because our sprite is 16 pixels and our crosshair is 32. This allows us to center the bullet. And then by equals mouse y, and that's also minus 16. So that centers the bullet on the middle of our crosshairs. And then we can say hashtag gaming world, so the handle to our window, and we'll say sprite xy bullet, so our bullet, because we're going to set him to the position of our bx. So bx by, and then we're going to want to draw sprites. I wonder if it'll draw it without drawing sprites. Let's see. So it does draw it without drawing sprites, so that's kind of perfect because we already have it in our loop. So let's quit. So we'll see if we have to add a draw sprites there later on, but I don't think we're going to need to. But we'll make sure that doesn't create a bug later on. So looks good so far. So let's go ahead and go to our next section of the code. In the last section, or the next section, are going to be our move balloon, our count, and our collisions. This is where we're actually going to do all of our coding now. This is where it needs to happen. So let's go ahead and get the balloon moving up and down on the screen. The first thing we want to do when we move our balloon, because now, let's go ahead and run this again. You guys can see we have our crosshair, we have our balloon, our bullet gets pasted to the screen. That's perfect. We'll actually reset our bullet later on. Well, let's reset our bullet now, so you guys can see it shows and disappears. We're on that, so let's stay with that part of it. So let's go ahead and reset our bullet right now. So to reset our bullet, we're going to go here, we're going to say if shoot flag is equal to 1, so now we shot, then we're going to say shoot count, and I'm sorry I have the sniffles, it's terrible, equals shoot count plus 1. Then we're going to say if shoot count is greater than 3, then shoot flag, so we want to reset the flag. Man, if I can spell it, flag is equal to 0. So now we reset our shoot flag. Let's reset the shoot count. Have that equal 0. And then basically we're going to say gaming world sprite xy, and we want to reference our bullet here. We want to set the x and y of our bullet back off the screen. We don't want to see it anymore. So instead of doing xy, we're actually going to do 0, 1000. So now we reset basically our bullet off of the screen. And because these are multiple if statements, we need an end if for the inside if. and an end if for the outside if. Let's save it. Let's go ahead and run it. We can see, shoot, bang, it disappears. See how the bullet shows up on our crosshair? Wherever we shoot, and then goes away. So we can look at this code right here, this counter. So if the shoot flag is equal to 1, which means, okay, we shot, shooting is true. Let's go ahead and increment the shoot counter. So it's going to add 1 to it. And we're not going to reset it until we get to a count of 3. That way it stays on. So let me show you guys how this works. So if I change this to 10, the bullet will stay on the screen a lot longer. See the delay before it disappears? So that counter allows it to stay there. Now if you were to set it to 1, it goes away almost instantly. But we want to keep it on the screen for a little bit of time. We don't want it to go away right away. We had a little power brownout there. We're still on though, so that's good. It's been interesting tonight. We're getting a pretty big nor'easter storm, but we'll keep going. So as you guys can see, it disappears. So let's change it back to 3. It allows it to stay on the screen for a nice period of time. We'll save it. We'll run it again. Pretty nice period of time. So that resets our shoot counter. So our bullet's done. Let's go get our balloon moving. Kind of mentioned this a minute ago. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that which direction do we want our balloon to go. We set it by default to up, but let's check it if we need to send it the other way. So if our R ball Y, so the Y position, if that is less, not greater than, less than 30, let's go ahead and move our balloon in the down direction. Let's move it down the screen. This is where we say balloon dir, our balloon direction equals down. And I like to use uppercase with these checks. Then if R ball, not all uppercase, geez. NyQuil's a wonder. If R ball Y is greater than 710, then balloon dir is equal to up. So this means, okay, if we're greater than 710, we need to move our balloon back up the screen. If it's less than 30, we need to move it down the screen. So that's all that does for us. It just resets those. And then we actually move our ball in the direction that we want to go. So we say if R ball Y is greater than 30 and balloon dir is equal, not plus, is equal to up, then we can say R ball Y equals R ball Y, what we say, minus 5. So we'll move it 5 pixels. Then we can say if R ball Y is less than 710 and balloon dir is equal to down, so we're moving down the screen, then R ball Y equals R ball Y plus 5. So we're moving down the screen. So if we're greater than 30 and we're moving up, we're going to move up the screen, and if we're less than 710, we're moving down the screen. So this just makes us go in the right directions. The only other thing we want to do is actually set the position of our balloon. So it's hashtag gaming world, the handle of our window, and then we're going to just say, once again, I need that function, sprite XY, say our balloon all the R's, and then we're just going to set it to R ball X, R ball Y. Now when we run this, our balloon should move up and down the screen for us. It's moving up, it's going to hit the top, and it's going to move down. Now we could have had it go up a little bit higher to hit that bar, but you can see it's going to go right back down. It's going to go off the edge just a smidge and go right back up. So you can see it's just going to move up and down all day long for us. Perfect. It's exactly what we want. So our balloon is moving. And that's it for the balloon movement. So now what we need to do is we actually need to say, okay, how are we going to shoot our balloon? You know, that's the last part. We need to shoot our balloon and make it disappear. To do that, we need to set up collisions, but we also need to set up our balloon flag, which keeps the balloon off the screen. So let's first go ahead and set up our collision, because that's the easiest part. So for the collision, what we're going to do is we're going to build a collision list. So gaming world, and I think I've talked about this before, but we're going to use sprite collides, and we're looking for what is the bullet colliding with, and I'll say list. So that's our list. Now what I want to do is use find balloon, because that's what we're trying to shoot. So this is actually a local variable that I'm creating right here called find balloon, and if that is equal to our instruction list, this is so we don't have to reference our whole list. We can just look for our balloon contained within that list. That's all it does for us. So we're looking for our balloon. Now, as soon as it finds our balloon, it goes ahead and it'll populate in the list and say, okay, it's equal to 0, or 1, excuse me. So we'll say if find balloon, and I think I've showed you guys this function before, is greater than 0, then that means it's true. So if it's greater than 0, so it means we found the balloon. We're going to go ahead and say, we're not going to put an if in here, we're going to say hashtag gaming world sprite visible. The visibility of our red balloon, our balloon is off. And I don't know if I've used this excuse me, with you guys yet. So basically we're going to turn the visibility of the red balloon off. This works for what we're building here, and then end if. So as long as I hit everything right, it's working, our balloon disappears. But it doesn't come back. Not a very fun game, right? If you can't keep shooting stuff, or this balloon. So we want our balloon to come back, and this is where our other count comes in, our balloon count. So we're going to use our balloon flag here. So I'm going to put a space in here just to make it look nice and neat. So we're going to say if balloon flag is equal to 1, then balloon count is equal to balloon count plus 1. So this is basically, we're building a timer like we did with the bullet, kept the bullet on the screen. Well, we're building a timer now to keep the balloon off the screen. So we're going to say if balloon, so if we shot a balloon, we're going to go ahead and increment or set this timer. Balloon count is greater than 30. So that should keep the balloon off the screen for a little while. Then balloon, and this can definitely be refined. I kind of did this in a hurry to give you guys a lesson. Hopefully this will help spur your imagination to do other things. Balloon count equals 0, so just like our upper flag there. And what we want to do is I actually want to set a random number, which you guys haven't seen this yet. Some local variable rx, so random number. And it's going to be, this is the command to generate a random number. So rand 1, this is how you seed the timer. And you use the multiplication sign. And I'm going to use 800. So if we're between our random number and 800, we're going to go ahead, we're going to generate that number, and our balloon's going to be on the screen somewhere between basically 1 and 800 pixels. Now our screen's 1024 wide, and the other thing we can do is always say that our balloon is over 15. So let's go ahead and add 15. So at a minimum, our balloon's going to be either 15 pixels or at 800 pixels on the X. And how we're going to assign this, we're actually going to say R ball X equals RX. Then all we need to do is actually set the handle of our gaming world. So our sprite XY, so the position of our sprite. Okay. So this is our red balloon. We're going to set the XY to just like we normally would. So R ball X, or it's uppercase, spell everything right or it does not work. And then R ball Y. And we need to set the visibility back on. Remember, we turned it off when we shot it. So we want to say sprite XY R balloon, not sprite XY, sprite visible. Glad I caught it here. R balloon on. So the visibility, we're going to turn it back on, and let's do and if. So now when we shoot our balloon, because we have our counter that resets all of this, disappear, and it should show up a little while later. Shoot it again, and it's going to show up at a random X and a random Y, so it could be moving up or down depending on how long it's been off the screen. Now, we could have a random variable that says, okay, it's moving up or down. We could reset all that stuff and have it be random. Over time, we could speed all of this up. So we might have multiple levels. We might actually use our arrays and populate an array with a bunch of balloons. That's how many balloons are always on the screen. And then you pop them and see how many you can, pop in a short amount of time. So you can see it disappears and keeps coming back. Now we have one more thing to do, because right now our score is not incrementing. And it's kind of annoying, because it's not very nice. It's like, wow, we want to keep score now. So go back down here and you would say, okay, if we collide with the balloon, let's go ahead and have our score equals score plus 1. And you'd be like, oh yeah, that's going to work. But watch what happens. See how we get 3, 6, 9? That'll drive you nuts because you're like, I'm only hitting it once and I'm only adding 1. Well, because we loop through our shoot counter 3 times, that's why we're getting 3. If we were to change our loop to 1 back to that really fast counter, you can see now we get 1. But we want to see our bullet on the screen a lot longer. So let's change this back to 3. And all we need to do is add this simple little if statement. So if shoot count is less than or equal to 1, then score equals score plus 1. Let's go ahead and shoot it. There we go. So now we only get 1 added each time, because basically by the time it finishes counting, it's already reset and we can never get to 2 or 3. So just a catch-22 I thought I'd show you guys, because that'll drive you crazy sometimes. But I hope you guys liked the lesson. As you can see, we now have a little game that increments the score every time we pop a balloon. We could change this background to be kind of a cool, like, maybe it's a booth background or a bouncing sky or something, but Hopefully I've stirred your imagination. We'll go ahead and do another lesson and maybe add more balloons. Build on top of this, make them go faster, some fast, some slow. But yeah, we'll definitely see. But I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson. If you did, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next lesson, guys.